Good morning, everybody. Good morning. If you would, please take your seats, and we'll get started. Uh, Representative Williams, would you open us with a word of prayer, please, sir?
Almighty and everlasting thou art, eternal God, we thank you once again for today. We thank you for the fellowship. We thank you for the opportunity to work with and help the people of Georgia. Now, Lord, bless us in our deliberations and let us keep in mind why we're here. For it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. All our crustaceans are doing okay on the coast, I guess, too. Okay, let's hear from our friends over here who want to ask for a bill. Come on up. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you to the chair. Thank you to this body. I present to you House Bill 283, the traffic signature bill.
What bill?
Page 3. Top of page 3. We have danced this dance before this bill passed out of the House and through Senate committee and was left in Senate rules last year. All this bill does is codifies into law the ability for law enforcement to write, refuse to sign on a ticket in instances where they encounter a citizen who does not agree with a charge or simply doesn't understand that signing the ticket is not an admission of guilt. And it allows for officers to take this safer route if they feel it will make them feel more safe and get home at the end of the night. I want to say thank you to my bipartisan co-sponsors and thank you to my external law enforcement supporters of this bill. Georgia Chiefs of Police, they did supply a letter of support to the Motor Vehicle Committee along with Georgia Sheriffs, GMA, ACCG, and a few others. So with that, Mr. Chair, I ask for your favorable consideration.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Lady Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I have House Bill 167. It is on page 2, about a quarter of the way down. This is a bill that we had last year in the House. It would allow fluorescent pink to be worn in addition to fluorescent orange during certain hunting seasons. It was brought to me by a young lady from Gwinnett County who is an avid hunter and wanted some options, and when she researched it, she found that it actually, in the states where it had been added, had actually increased the hunting licenses that were sold. So apparently it's been popular in other states, and I'd love for us to add that option here in Georgia for those who would choose it.
Well, we have a question from our fashion expert over here, Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, in committee, you certainly did a good job of presenting the bill. And we found that deer are colorblind anyhow. But you're worried about the deer hunters, and you'll certainly bring some good looks to some dreary situations in the woods. Thank you for the bill.
Thank you. I think you're referring to the colorblind research that we did, and we found that the fluorescent pink was actually more visible than fluorescent orange for many people who have color blindness. So we felt like this was an all-around good option for us here in Georgia when we're hunting.
Okay, we got another question. Chairman Martin.
Isn't it true that being a Georgia fan, we're somewhat adverse to orange in general in this state?
Okay, don't see any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 287, page 3, 4 down. This is our DNR cleanup bill. It codifies our rules and regs from our DNR board and changes year 2024 to 2025. And we changed a few of our categories. We have a courtesy hunting license category. Previous language only allowed non-residents to qualify for this, and we've made it where we can have residents, non-residents, and residents of disabled or paralyzed people be eligible for this license. We're trying to create an atmosphere where they can enjoy our outdoors. In our youth department, we had different deer and turkey had different ages. We're making our youth category under 16, just to clarify for our game wardens out there and make it simple. And for Mr. Williams and those down south, we're creating a new shellfish license. Currently, they're individually sold. This would make one license for a crew master could buy one license for up to 10 harvesters for $200 and unlimited for $400. And that's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, don't see any questions. Thank you. Representative Washburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I'm here today to present House Bill 225, which seeks to reverse the bill that was passed in 2018 that allows school zone speed cameras for the purposes of ticketing Georgia drivers. This bill seeks to reverse that. This bill has, I believe now, over 100 co-signers. I know it has 100 co-signers. Many of those co-signers are sitting in this room on that committee. This is a needed bill. I know we need to be brief today, but Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request that this bill be passed out of the Rules Committee and onto the floor for a vote. I'll take any questions.
Great. We do have a question for you. Whip Parton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Washburn, I know we've had a conversation or two about this bill. Would there be any sort of alternative if we repeal all school safety zone cameras to ensure that folks aren't speeding through areas in which children are walking around?
There have been suggestions that we need to mend it rather than end it, but I resist those suggestions. I believe this is the best thing to do with this, and the reason is, the indication is, with good investigative reporting that's been done, that over $200 million have been issued in fines across Georgia. One of the major complaints we get from the public about this is that the driver has no recourse. And we believe that the best thing to do is to just end this system, because if we try to mend it and the camera companies continue to abuse that, the individual driver has no way to go and contest that. And so I believe this is the best way to do that. I have been, let me just say, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I went over to Decatur. Decatur's a beautiful little city, and they do have schools there in a close circle, and there are a lot of kids walking there. And I do not suggest that every community that is using these cameras is abusing it the way they are being abused across the state. But the evidence is overwhelming that our people are being victimized by this, and it's wrong. It's a business model designed to rake in money for local governments and for out-of-state camera companies. And I resist the idea of a mended suggestion.
Okay, we've got several questions. Representative Chairman Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, I appreciate your efforts on this. We've talked about statistics of how much revenue is coming in, which is way more than it would take to have locals come and enforce the traffic laws. But my question is, do we have any statistics of children actually being harmed in school zones? I know we've had horrific, tragic losses in bus stop pickups and such as that, mainly dealing with our school buses. But do we have any statistics of children being killed or injured in traffic accidents in and around our schools in Georgia?
Well, thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. I'm a grandfather of 6 grandchildren, and I think you know me well enough to know I would never be insensitive to the needs of traffic safety in these school zones. I think there have been very few, obviously the loss of any child, and I think in Decatur they had a situation of where a crossing guard was perhaps hit. But the question is valid. There are very, very few examples of that across the state. There are other ways to slow down traffic, with flashing lights, or maybe with a speed indicator, or with a patrol car sitting with a light flashing. So I appreciate that question very much. Many people who email me, and when I announced that I was going to drop this bill, I began to get emails from all over the state, texts and emails in support of this. And a lot of times people will say this is a solution looking for a problem. Many times, these cameras are being employed where there are no sidewalks, no children walking, and they're designed to rake in money, and the design is not to protect children. So thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we've got several more questions that want to be asked, and so I'm going to ask you to ask short questions and short answers so we can try to get to everybody. Representative Evans, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, is there any evidence that you are aware of or that was heard in committee that the tickets that are being issued when people aren't actually speeding, and any erroneous tickets?
Yes, ma'am, there are many, many complaints about this.
Not
many
complaints. Are there examples of someone saying, the camera ticketed me going this speed, but I wasn't actually going that speed?
We hear complaints about all sorts of things, and that is probably included in that. In fact, I'm sure it is. I have had some people complain that they were not speeding. Yes, that is true. Many, many complaints of these tickets being issued outside of what is perceived as the school hours or the school zone hours. Many reports of tickets being issued where people thought they were not speeding. I personally got one of those.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, my question is not whether people are complaining about whether it was this time of day or that time of day. Is there evidence, not complaints, is there evidence that the cameras are clocking people at a certain speed and there is evidence presented that they weren't going that speed? That's the question.
Well, I'll tell you what the evidence is. The evidence is that there's been $200 million of tickets issued over that in Georgia. If you divide that by $100, that is 2 million tickets. Now, do we believe that there are 2 million drivers in Georgia speeding through school zones, endangering children? I think not.
Yes.
Okay. Chairman Irwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative, thank you here on this bill. Question is, having been a superintendent with a child killed right out in front of the school and cameras being put up, and we haven't had a death since that time, very close to my personal property. Are you considering any other measures for controlling the speed or safety out in front of these schools?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the question. I believe there are other ways. We do need to remember, of course, that before these cameras were employed, obviously we did some things to control traffic speed in school zones. So there are other ways to do it other than abusing Georgians the way they're being abused by these camera systems. Flashing lights, speeds indicators, a patrol car with a flashing light, crossing guards. There are other ways to do it. In my mind, it is wrong for us to be allowing Georgians to be victimized like this, and to do that, to let them continue to be victimized with an argument that this is the only way to do it is not a valid argument.
Okay. Chair Lady Hughley, or Leader Hughley, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, isn't it true that on my street, 2 children on their way to school, hit by a driver, one child died, the other child has been permanently impaired, and in that particular instance, there was no school camera, but now we have them, and I just cannot sit here and let you say that when I pass by the memorial to that child every single day. Children have been killed and severely injured in these school zones.
And that is indeed a tragedy. But the use of these cameras to continue to rake huge amounts of money out of the pockets of Georgians is not a required solution to that problem.
Chairman Stevens, do you have a question?
I do. Mr. Chairman, don't you believe that these tickets are issued to the car or the vehicle instead of the driver, which is one of the issues?
That is exactly true, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the question. To take a photo of the license plate, the ticket that I got was issued to my wife, Donna, and she was not driving that car. That happens all the time. We've heard all sorts of stories about that, and we believe that the system is being badly abused and that it's not a good system.
Okay. Chair Lady Cooper has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I know that we all think our bills are perfect, and one of the things we often do is go from over here and we go too far over there. It seems like since it's the money issue, that you could focus on doing something about money, because I live in a county where several children have been killed, and where I would question how many thousands of people still, speed and that kind of thing, and it has helped. I would ask you to please look at what some of us are saying and reconsider your perfect bill.
Well, thank you for that observation, Madam Chair. And again, anytime a child is killed is a great tragedy.
Okay.
No bill is perfect. This is a duplication of the bill that Chairman Clay Perkle bought last year that passed out of motor vehicles that did not go any further. I will tell you again, this bill had 100 co-signers, and they were easy co-signers to get. I could have gotten a lot more, but I was anxious to get the bill dropped. 100 co-signers indicates the abuses that are going on in Georgia with these systems, and I do not believe that continuing these systems to continue is about children's safety. It is about raking in revenue.
Okay, Chair Lady Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there any, right now, when the bodies are getting the funds, do they spend it on safety? What do they do with these dollars? Do they go in the general coffers? Do you know?
It's going in different places. It's going into city coffers. Sometimes it is going to a school board, I believe. Sometimes it is going just to the sheriff. I had a report from over in the county south of Augusta where the sheriff implemented this system without the blessing of the county commission. And by the way, since that time, this is a small county of 27,000 people. This is one school on a state bypass, and they have collected $500,000 in 7 months. The abuses are real, and we need to correct them.
Follow up, please. One of the things I have had concerns about were the accuracy of them, because I've had a number of people that were not speeding. The other thing is the time. They wrote tickets when it was not in the appropriate school zone time.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's happened on a number of occasions that I've heard.
Yes,
and one with my husband, so it was accurate.
Yeah. Thank you for that observation. There are many, many, many reports of the abuses that go on. A lot of times it is tickets being written outside of the school zone times, and so the reports are many. Again, 100 co-signers indicates that our people, the members of our body, are hearing from their citizens about this.
Okay. Chairman Martin.
Chairman, I know you don't want to debate the bill, and I've had my line on and off, but I do, if I can, say that I'm one of the signers on the bill, but I respectfully ask the gentleman to keep an open mind, because isn't it true they can provide some value in slowing down, but what people are upset about is one that I'm particularly aware of in my district, where the in and the out, both directions, are at the same place. So isn't it true it is possible you could drive through the primary portion of that school zone at 50 miles an hour, slow down to 25, 3/4, almost a half a mile away, probably not 3/4, half a mile away, not get a ticket, and have been very dangerous. My point, isn't it true, is that they're putting the things up where they're the cheapest and most apt to catch people speeding, not where they're apt to save children's lives. And there's a compromise, isn't it true, probably, Mr. Chairman, if we're really trying to get to the bottom of this.
Good. Thank you, sir. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in this, and good discussion today, and we'll be looking at this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman Dickey.
As a co-signer of that previous bill, I bring you HB 249. It's on the top of page 3. This bill builds upon a bill, HB 300, that Representative Kelly had last year, that was passed by the House, Senate, and signed by the governor, HB 300. So a great bill there, and this bill just simply builds upon it. The previous bill asks companies that lease land to install solar arrays to have the financial wherewithal at the end of the term of that lease. And when those solar fields become obsolete, to be able to put them back in the previous state, to decommission them. And this bill simply asks those companies to show DNR those financial instruments before they start construction, just to show me the money before you start, that you have the wherewithal to decommission.
Okay, you have a question?
I'll be happy to ask any questions.
Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Dickey, isn't it true that this issue has been a focal point of the Rural Development Council for at least 4 or 5 years, knowing that this issue is going to happen, and that we're very happy that you're taking leadership on this?
Yeah, I appreciate the work of the Development Council looking out for our natural resources, land in this state in years to come.
Don't see any other questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Whip Zebo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two bills. First one is House Bill 352. It's on page 3. I think it's the sixth one down. It's a simple yet significant amendment to a bipartisan bill we unanimously passed into law last year regarding coverage of continuous glucose monitoring for the management of diabetes. Well, it turns out that words do matter when you're writing policy. So on line 21 of the bill, we have removed the requirement of a daily insulin treatment to just an insulin treatment. And on line 22, we're including the condition of gestational diabetes to be a covered condition. The amendment ensures that Medicaid will cover continuous glucose monitors for pregnant women diagnosed with gestational diabetes if their physician prescribes it. And it will reduce the need for expensive interventions and will save the state money by preventing long-term complications down the road for both the mother and the baby. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, don't see any questions. You have another one also?
I do. Also on page 3, number 7, I present House Bill 353, the Georgia Music Office and Music Ready Communities Act. This bill is enabling legislation for the creation of the Georgia Music Office and will serve as a centralized hub to coordinate efforts of a fragmented but vibrant music industry here in Georgia. By coordinating music resources, providing community block grants, and providing workforce and strategic direction and support to local communities, this office will help to revitalize the music business in local towns and communities throughout the state. It will play a vital role in supporting music-related businesses throughout the state and revitalizing once vibrant, now shuttered music venues. The office will help bolster music education in our high school career academies, local colleges, and universities by helping to coordinate internship opportunities and job placement for students and musical professionals looking to work in the industry and remain here in Georgia. Georgia started this conversation 6 years ago, before I was in office, but we failed to take action. And since that time, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Texas took our lead and have opened music offices. In Texas, for example, with a $5 million investment, has bolstered their economy to $5 billion, a $10 million investment, and they reap the benefits of a $5 billion investment. So, Mr. Chairman and committee, I ask for your favorable consideration to get this to the floor for a vote. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Don't see any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any members of the committee have anything they want to ask for? Well, got one more. Representative Petrie, come in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bringing today House Bill 115. This was House Bill 957 last year, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I ran from another meeting. Don't know where it's at on your sheet.
First,
I apologize. First page. Very good. Mr. Chairman, this bill is real simple. It is trying to deal with a chronic problem we have on the coast with abandoned vessels that are left in the marsh and on lakes throughout the state. We have 159 vessels that are abandoned on the Georgia coast, about half of which are sunken. The others are just kind of floating around in the marsh, 38 on Georgia lakes. And oftentimes these vessels are floated down from out of state. I had one in my district about a year and a half ago that was just floated down from New Jersey, and they floated off into the marsh and leave them there because they don't want to pay to dispose of them, and so they leave them for the taxpayers. We end up having to pay for that cost somewhere around $40,000 to $40,000 a piece if they're sunken, a little more if they're floating, a little less. But that burden's being borne by taxpayers. DNR has been unable to fix this issue for years, and this measure very simply ties that up and creates criminal penalties for people who do this to hold them accountable.
Okay, thanks. Well, do have a question. Chairman Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Didn't we pass this legislation a few years ago?
Yes, sir. Last year it passed. It went through. It was ready to go on the floor of the Senate, and they failed to get. It's one of those they failed to get to, Mr. Chairman.
I do remember in the past that there was some money budgeted years ago to remove some of these vessels. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. It failed to pass in the Senate last year, so it's a repeat.
Good. Don't see any other questions. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. None from the committee? Okay. We've got a little housekeeping business I'd like to tend to now before we set a calendar. I'd like to entertain a motion that House Bill 56 be recommitted to the Committee on Higher Education.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any objection? It's so ordered. Okay. Chair Lady Cooper, did you have something?
Yes, sir. I'd like to move that we recommit House Bill 89 to the Public and Community Health Committee.
Okay, you've heard that motion. Is there a second? Second. Any opposition? It's back. Okay. I'd like to ask a point of personal privilege. Today is Community Health Center Day here at the Capitol. We've got a group of those folks that will be recognized on the floor of the House a little later this morning, but we have a group in the audience with us. These are the folks who work in our federally qualified health centers all around the state, and they're visiting with us today. This House has always had an interest in what they're doing, so would you join me? Would you folks stand so that we could welcome you and thank you for being here today? Thank you very much. We appreciate the good work you do for the citizens of Georgia all over this state. Okay, let's set us a calendar for Friday, tomorrow, so that we can get some work done and then go home for the weekend, okay? House Bill 58 under modified structure. Have a move and a second. Any opposition? It's on. House Bill 167. Have a move and second. No opposition, it's on. House Bill 181. Moved and seconded. No opposition, it's on. House Bill 192. Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. House Bill 196. Moved and seconded. Any opposition? It's on. House Bill 205. Have moved and a second. Any opposition? It's on. House Bill 283. Have a move and a second. Any opposition? It's on. I want y'all to listen to this next one now, and all my friends across the building. Senate Bill 16. Move. Senate Bill 16. We have a move and a second. Is there any opposition? It's on for tomorrow. Just want to show that we're working with our friends across the building, and I know they're going to do the same with us. Thank you very much. We'll see y'all at the meeting. We're adjourned.